So Dana is no stranger to being an author. She's already been writing. She writes quite a bit. She's the author of You Know Who, which is an alienated daughter's memoir. She is a #1 best-selling author. And she's also authored The Uncluttered Mother, which is on Free Up Your Space, Mind, and Heart. So Dana has also spoken local, nationally, and I added, hopefully, I think I'm okay with adding internationally, Dana, audiences regarding alienation, parenthood, and wellness. So she's also provided her website here for more information. And since we're running short on time, I'm going to go ahead and toss it over to you so you can use up the time that you have.
Sure. Thank you, Don. Hi, everyone. I'm going to, hi, Brandy. I'm going to just go over a summary of my experience of being alienated as a child, and then I will share what I feel is needed for the intervention of this child's psychological abuse, just based on my experiences. And then I will talk about healing, including my own creative expression, which is writing. And I'll talk just a little bit about the books. And lastly, share how you can get in touch with me. So here we go. All right, so that is my sister and me shortly before we became alienated from our loving mother. And it started as our mother actually physically being exiled from our home. And then my father was able to get an attorney who immediately called it abandonment. And so he received temporary custody. And so it was a pretty solid start to the alienation, right there from the beginning of the separation. And before that, we were close to my maternal family and my paternal family. So I have a sister about a year and a half older than me, and I lived with my father, my mother, and we lived, within a town from my maternal family, and we actually lived upstairs from my paternal grandparents. And then as the alienation happened, our maternal family, I became alienated from not only my mother, but my maternal grandparents, my aunts who they were just teenagers at the time, and I was very close to them as well. And it was uh, eventually, I would say within a year, complete cutoff from that entire maternal family. Some behaviors my sister and I exhibited. Uh, my sister showed anger. She was very aligned with our father, and she showed no more expression of love towards our mother. In fact, she showed anger at our mother, and we began calling our stepmother mom. So my father had remarried within a year, and we called her mom. Different from my sister with the anger at my mother, I didn't feel that. I felt anxious in regards to my mother, in regards to speaking of her or the little bit that we did see her. I was 4 years old. I began regressing, acting like I was 3 again. And again, the telltale sign, the red flag, I went from loving my mother to having no more expressions of love toward her. Because as most of us here know, children go into that survival mode where they have to suppress those loving feelings toward that parent because it's just too overwhelming. Because who's there to help them process a grief? It's like a parent has died, but it's even more confusing because they haven't actually died. And there's all this unprocessed grief. And so it gets stuffed down. And so in my experience, I sort of just numbed out in regards to the topic of my mother. And I think can be very common. And how was the alienation made possible? Gatekeeping of information. So I heard the narrative that I was intended to hear from the aligned parent and his family members. I didn't receive, I had no more contact with my maternal family. Also, I was 4 years old, so I wasn't seeking my own information. Our aligned parent had the support of the community. He actually looked like the hero, the parent that stuck around, the good dad that wanted his poor abandoned children. Here's a big one. There were no consequences. And I think, or I think we know that parents who do the alienating understand consequences. They don't really understand empathy or a discussion on what it might be doing to the children. Honestly, I don't think they care. They understand consequences that would affect them. And there weren't any in this case. And of course, the manipulation of the children's attachment system. And I won't get into that, but we have, plenty of information on that from Dr. Elise and Dr. Childress and various psychologists who have explained that in depth. And the alienating parent has typically, or certainly in my case, a win at all costs mentality. And the end justifies the means and a lack of empathy. So that is a really dangerous, toxic mix. And my mother, many years later, when I was reconnecting with her, told me she knew she just could not win in court with my father, that basically that he would win at all costs. And I think she may have been right. Now, this is just what I think is needed. Well, it's actually what a lot of people think is needed. Because this is child psychological abuse, and it's also intimate partner violence or abuse. We certainly could use some more informed mental health services in the family courts and beyond. Perhaps that is the biggest, most important thing, or certainly one of the most important things. And a resolution for custodial interference. Now, the prospect of raising the consciousness of the family courts is a tall order. It might never happen. I think it's a dysfunctional system. However, there are some people working towards changing some legislation. I know that PA Consortium has written up some proposals for new legislation. There's a father, an alienated father, or formerly alienated, I'm not sure of his current status, but his name is Robert Garza, and he tells people to reach out to him on Facebook to just comment on one of his posts, and he will get back to them and if they want information to help them change a law in their state. He has come up with the new three-strike law and time taken back bill in Texas, which really holds alienated parents accountable right from the beginning and does not handle if they interfere with custody. For instance, if they aren't handing the children over at the other parent's parenting time, is treated like not like a civil matter, but like a criminal matter. And so the parent can go to the police and get, if this is in effect in their state, and the parent will be fined once, fined the second time, and then treated as a federal crime, I believe, the third time, the third strike. And, I'm all for just really consequences to parents doing alienated right from the beginning, swift consequences. And it's not to say that changes in the family court are ever going to eliminate alienation or coercive control or any of that, but it might at least stop the bleeding at the beginning if parents can't just take a kid and not return them. I mean, in my mind, that is kidnapping. And obviously awareness and education. We need wonderful coaches like Andrew and Ginger, as we heard about today. Obviously, those things are a huge coaching like that is a huge resource for parents. And I think some amount of sharing our stories to shed light and again, spread awareness. All right, now I'm going to get into the happier part of this, healing. For me, my healing, and I don't think someone has asked me, well, how do you know when you're really healed? Well, I think part of it is if you can talk about your experience without feeling overly emotional, but I also don't think it's black and white that there's oh, now you're healed point, at least not for me. But facing my truth was a big part of it for me. I don't know how anyone could heal from trauma if they don't recognize the truth of what has happened to them to begin with, and then to speak that truth. And I think that alienation is such a process of being, actually, Dr. Childers spoke to this, of being led away from your own internal compass. And part of the healing is coming back to that, to your own truth and your own internal compass. And it's not just for the matter of alienation, that, realizing that your targeted parent isn't actually bad and they are actually worthy and they do actually love you. That's a huge part of it. But what else have you not listened to for yourself? What are your dreams? What are your needs? Um, what other things have you perhaps ignored, and to just go within more and trust yourself more. I think it's a process of trusting yourself again. And the choices that we make every single day, I have found this to be really huge, because we can talk about all the different methods of healing, and there are many useful and really great ones, but it also comes down to the choices we make every single day. What are we doing to that is good for us versus what is harming us? How are we helping ourselves versus hurting ourselves? And overcoming beliefs is another part, or it was for me, of the healing. And again, it's not just overcoming the belief, maybe a false belief that you may have had about a parent, but what other beliefs did you inherit? And what beliefs do you want to choose now? What beliefs serve you well? And which ones do you want to let go of? Creative expression, I think, can be a really healing thing. I know it is for me. And writing is my biggest creative expression, or the one that I tend to do the most. Throughout the ages, artistic expression has helped bring awareness, understanding, and healing to society. Storytelling in particular elicits emotional connection and empathy. I think we can say that of music and fine arts as well, too, though. Oops. Here we go. So this was my first book, called The Uncluttered Mother: Free Up Your Space, Mind, and Heart. And in a way, I feel like it was the gateway to writing my memoir. And I actually write about it in the Warning Children Are Not Weapons book. And I'm going to read that little passage here. My first published book, The Uncluttered Mother: Free Up Your Space, Mind, and Heart, was published in 2021, and at first glance has nothing to do with my experience as a former alienated child. It is a collection of essays, mostly written while I was raising my children, about motherhood and simplifying life in ways that free us up for more joy, peace, and creativity. but I included a chapter on healing that hinted at my memoir that would be published 2 years later. Also, the whole time that I was writing The Uncluttered Mother, I thought about how common it is for people to avoid facing childhood wounds and how easy our society makes it so. We are often busy, have unlimited distractions, ways to numb our feelings, and plenty of encouragement to leave the past in the past, keeping significant truths suppressed or forgiving while bypassing the process of healing. Slowing down, reflecting, and taking good care of our whole selves, body, mind, and heart, is not built into our modern day culture. Decluttering our environment, our thoughts, and unhelpful beliefs help to clear a path forward, or perhaps more accurately, a path back to our true self. And then came my memoir, and this was really my truth-telling book, and I really felt a compelling need to write it. I feel like I've always known I would write this, like I was storing up the memories and the experiences to someday write them down. And I have been writing ever since I can remember, since I was a child. And the truth will set you free. That phrase comes to mind, and I think it certainly is accurate. That famous sort of cliche saying, but everyone gets to choose what telling the truth is for them. Not everyone's going to write about it. Not everyone is even going to speak about it, or they will choose to speak to some people about it and not others. So I think it's really a personal choice of how you want to tell your truth, and just choosing your own ways, whether it's creative expression or in therapy, or other ways. And does it set you free? There is, I think, yes, and there is a cost. And I certainly understand why there are adult alienated children. I mean, there are adult alienated children that don't realize they were alienated, but for the ones who do, I understand, for many of them, their reluctance to come forward, because there is a price that you pay. And for me, I made the choice that it was worth it to write my memoir and to have it published, and to accept the losses, some losses and some backlash that came with that. But the gains were truth to myself and to no longer participate in my own bondage by remaining silent. And also, perhaps just as importantly, spreading awareness and education. So I feel like every time I start to doubt, should I have written it? Should I have published my memoir? It's out there, for the world to see. And I feel vulnerable about it. And then I receive a message from somebody, usually a parent, saying, this helped me so much to see the child's perspective. And I feel like those messages always come at just the right time. And I'm really grateful for them. So both sides now. Parental alienation, as we know, is not a gender issue. And this is one of the reasons I've teamed up with another author, Bill McGee. Some of you may know him, but he's an author of a novel about a father who was alienated from his son. And so we felt like together we covered the bases of there's a story of an alienated father, a story of an alienated child, and the mother is alienated. A memoir, a novel, both genders of the parents, both genders of the children. So that is one of the creative things that I do to help spread awareness and share my memoir, and just really drive the point home that this is not a gender issue. And I really am turned off by groups that are just for fathers or just for mothers regarding this topic, because I think some of them really do more damage than good. It's just my opinion. And this brings us to warning, children are not weapons, which I want to thank Dawn for all the incredible work she put into this book. Really, it was just amazing to see her drive. And so I was happy to be a contributor. I'm going to read just a passage from my chapter from this book. Simple but not easy. The act of alienation or coercive control, in its simplest explanation, is the act of getting a child to doubt or override their own intuition. But the good news is that we can come back to our intuition. We can heal and thrive, and it doesn't have to be extremely complicated. We have to build our own self-trust. We have to do the things we know are good for us and stop doing the things that aren't. Simple, but not easy. We can invest time and energy in all sorts of helpful resources like therapy, coaches, and revisiting our trauma over and over. And sometimes we need to do this before moving forward. But real healing and growth also comes from the seemingly smallest of choices day after day. It comes from our daily habits, our incremental steps forward, and the momentum we gain from choosing consciously and consistently. Taking a deep breath, eating a healthy meal, going for a walk, stretching, calling a friend, sitting in silence, drinking a glass of water, doing what we told ourselves we would do, letting go of what doesn't serve us and what we've outgrown and what interferes with our best lives, choosing who we want to be around and not giving headspace to the rest. Every single day. We have so many opportunities to choose well, to invite joy, beauty, and peace, all while standing strong in our own truths. We have so many chances to save ourselves, to recognize our own strength and worthiness, to be the heroes of our own lives. Coercive control, as it pertains to parental alienation, is an abuse of power. One of our tasks as adult alienated children is to regain our personal power. Every time we make a choice that we know is not good for us, we voluntarily relinquish our power. Every time we choose wisely, we put ourselves back in control of ourselves, our body, mind, and spirit. And right, I'm trying to come back to you. I think
We have you.
okay, I'm back. Here I am. Um, so you're welcome to ask questions or comments, and that wraps
Yeah.
up what I have to present.
I think it's so important, some of the things that you said, and and just knowing your story a little bit and your journey and the caution that you take before you were able to freely express yourself because of what others may think. And then when you did, you still have some apprehension sometimes, and you want to say, okay, I'm done. And then someone else, I mean, if you touch a life, that kind of circles you back a little bit. And if we can make a difference with one person, that is
Mhm.
enough to keep going sometimes. So I appreciate
Yeah.
that you shared that, because I think it's true for a lot of us. It's thankless work in many ways. We don't, I mean, we get thanks from the people that we've helped and touched, but there's so much that goes on in our own journey to be able to do that, to be there, out there, putting all of our stories out there, and having that vulnerability. It takes a lot of courage to step up and do that. So I'm glad that you wrote your book, and I loved your first book, because man, I wish I had that book when I was trying to figure things out.
Thank you. You know, I forgot to share my last slide, but
Oh,
it
okay.
just my contact info.
Okay.
Um, let me see if I can just pull it up real quick.
While you're grabbing that, Dana, I have a question for you.
Yep.
So it seems like, your memoir, was the beginning of your healing. However, what was the catalyst to you doing the memoir? Was there a pivotal moment to the start of your healing process? Like, what made you say, okay, I'm taking matters into my own hands?
I think after the birth of my daughter, I really knew for sure that a mother, and I think the same could be said as a father, but in my case, it was my mother, does not just walk away from their child. Like it just, I could feel the impossibility of that when I became a mother. And it just, I was compelled to reach out. But as far as writing the book, I feel like I somehow always knew I would. I mean, I was writing things in my diary as a little kid and just, trying to write my way back to my mother in a way.
Mm.
This is my contact page. It's just my full name is my website. And then below it, I just have, I, I have a newsletter on Substack, but you can get to it through my website. And I write, my newsletter is called Minimal Monday, and it's just the first Monday of every month. And I give updates and essays and whatnot. So feel free to check that out or write to me, contact me. That's where you can reach me.
I just would like to say also, Dana, thank you for sharing because that, the fear, I guess, the reluctance, the hesitation to speaking out and being vulnerable and throwing it out there is, or can be overwhelming. I know I've gone through that in the past since I've started to be on these panels and be a part of it. It's a big shift. So anyway, I guess I just wanted to say, I appreciate your courage. I know how difficult it is. I couldn't speak yesterday very well. That's how difficult it was for me. So
I'm sorry. I understand. I understand it. And it's in some ways more comfortable for us to keep some people happy, or that's how we grew up, or in that situation of alienation, it actually feels better to not face your truth and not speak your truth. It feels better to keep them happy. And so it is a shift of going through the great discomfort of knowing you're being someone's worst nightmare, perhaps a whole family of origin's worst nightmare, by saying the truth. And so it is hard, but we're all on a somewhat of a hero's journey, and it's not easy, but it's real.
And I thank you. I was just gonna say, and I think how you said how it felt like breaking the bond, or it is breaking the bond of the mental chains that our past sometimes holds us back to. It's like once we start healing, once we start finding ourselves and freeing ourselves from the trauma, our future, the future is so much brighter. You feel so much freer.
Yeah.
I used to have so many ailments, and now it's like because I'm free, I still make my mistakes. I may make some tomorrow, but I own those. And the future is brighter for us. So I love breaking those mental chains because it looks so much prettier looking forward than backwards.
That's beautiful. You're
And
very
Dana, I
inspiring, Brand.
I'm I wanted to say I'm really happy that you've teamed up with Bill. He's amazing. And how did that collaboration come about?
How did it come about? A long time ago when his book first came out, he found me by my website and reached out, and my memoir was not published yet. And I hosted a local book event, because I knew some alienated parents and people interested in the topic in the area that I'm in, geographically. And he came out this way, and so I hosted a book event at a library. And then we stayed in touch somewhat, and then I'm not sure how many years, not too long after that, my memoir came out. And I've done some events, book readings at a library, bookstore and whatnot, but we thought, why don't we do this together? And it really worked out well. He's in New York, I'm in Massachusetts. So last time we did it together was in Connecticut because that was halfway. But it works out well. So we're hoping to do more of that in the future.